basically tonight I'm doing this talk for one reason. We're not trying to make money or get new patients out of this talk. It's my duty to this community to spread the truth. Okay, everywhere. It hasn't hit yet. So when you guys see in October is when they're really pushing to get everyone vaccinated, it's going to be everywhere. I mean, you go to Walgreens, get your flu shots, get your shingle shots. I mean, everywhere you go, they're telling you this. Okay, so what we need to do is figure out, do we need a vaccine? Does the vaccine work? What is the swine flu anyways? Okay, because if you don't know, then you're going to be just like everyone else, which is mass chaos. I mean, I flew in a plane about 3 weeks ago. I'm like, man, can I have a pillow? And no pillows, no blankets. There's swine flu going around. And so now it's affecting my life. And so I want to make sure that you guys understand this, because it's just ridiculous. They're out of hand sanitizer. They're out of masks everywhere. So people obviously are a little freaked out. So should we be freaked out? Shouldn't we? Well, let's talk about this, because this is what you have to understand. So what are we going to be reading? Well, health officials are already saying from the CDC that this winter, 5 to 20% of this population will catch the flu. And so what they also are saying is 200,000 people are going to be hospitalized and 36,000 people are going to be dead. And so that's an equivalent number, right? I mean, does that make you guys a little bit nervous? What is influenza? So what you guys have to understand is, well, what is the flu anyways? And so what the flu is a virus, okay? So should we be worried about viruses? Should we be worried about viruses? Well, of course, if a virus gets inside your body, what's it want to do? It wants to replicate, it wants to take over, and it wants to kill you. Okay, so yes, viruses are dangerous. Can we treat a virus with an antibiotic? Antibiotic means antibacterial. Okay, so antibiotic will never touch a virus, just to let you know. Okay, so here's a common one. We go to the doctor with ear infections, and 98% of all ear infections are viral, and they're still prescribing antibiotics, which is doing nothing but dampening your children's immune systems. Okay, so doctors know this, and yet they're still prescribing the antibiotics. Why? Because they know you, as a parent, are not going to leave that doctor's office happy unless you have something to give your children. So at least it's like for the moms and dads, for them to ease their brain, that at least we have something to give our kids. But actually, it's not going to do anything but make the virus live a little bit healthier in your young one. Okay, so this is kind of where we're going. There are thousands of strains. The flu is a little bit different. It's different than urinary tract infections. It's a little bit different than the flu-like illness. Influenza does not cause digestive problems. Okay, so when we think of stomach flu, there's no such thing. Okay, the flu gives you symptoms and it feels like stomach, but it has nothing to do with your stomach at all. Okay, and so signs and symptoms. Basically, we're going to go through these, but last year only 1 to 3% of samples tested came back positive for influenza. And so what you have to understand is all these flu-like symptoms, when they go to do the tests, there's a bunch of things that are going to give you the symptoms, but unfortunately none of them are coming back testing positive for the flu. And so what's the answer? Okay, mass vaccination, because this is what we're seeing here. Okay, Illinois State Board of Education. This is what they're sending home, by the way, with each one of your children. Okay, so this is what be prepared, because this is going to come in the mail. So what they're saying is, we're writing to encourage you today to have your children vaccinated against seasonal flu and the H1N1 influenza, which is the swine flu. Vaccines are the most effective way to protect your children and their classmates from these potential serious diseases. Each year, 1 in every 5 Americans are infected with seasonal flu. 36,000 people die from flu-related causes. So basically, if you're getting this and you're a parent, what are you thinking? This is pretty scary, right? I mean, this is like, I want my children. So you guys have to understand, what you want is best for your children. I am with you. I want what's best for your children. So reading this, me not being educated, and not knowing what I know, because we're going to go through this, this says, well, I better hurry up and get my kids vaccinated, because this is what's going to protect them from 1 in every 5 Americans getting the flu, and 36,000 people are dying. Okay? So, of course, this worries you. And so, do vaccines really work? Because what the CDC is, first off, it's a 15-member panel that makes the recommendations every year for who should be vaccinated. Okay? History of vaccination and recommendations. So what we need to do is we need to go through what they've been doing. Okay? So 10 years ago, from the year 1999 to the 2000 season, okay, the committee recommended that people over the age of 65 and children are at risk and that they should be vaccinated. So guess what? 10 years ago, 74 million people were vaccinated. Okay, this was in 99 to 2000. And so, the next season, the committee lowered the age from 65 to people 50 years old and older, adding 41 million Americans to, or 41 million people to the list. So, what do you guys think? So in 1 year, they vaccinated people 65 years old and older, and now all of a sudden, the next year, they lowered that age 15 years, and they added 41 million people. Why? Did in 1 year, the chances of people from 65 to 50, I mean, did their immune systems deplete that much that they needed to add 41 million people to the list? So we're going to get to this, okay, but what does that sound like? And so then the very next year, for 2002-03 season, the ACIP added healthy children 6 months to 23 months old. And then from the 04-05, children from 5 years old, all the way up to 5 years old. Children all the way up to 5 years old. Now for 08-09 season, which was last year, the committee has advised that healthy children 6 months, as young as 6 months, all the way to age 18, have a flu shot. And it recommends influenza vaccine now covers 256 million Americans. So 10 years ago, they vaccinated 74 million, and now, with all the recommendations now, 84% of the U.S. population is recommended to get the flu shot. So what happened in the last 10 years, guys? They're starting to get smart, because guess what they're making? More and more and more money. Okay? So I'm going to get into, does the vaccine work, doesn't it work? But this is like really, what they're saying is pharmaceutical companies have made 146 million influenza vaccines for the U.S. market this season. Almost all members of the ACIP that are making these recommendations have financial ties to the vaccine industry. The CDC, therefore, must grant each member a conflict of interest waiver they have to sign. Okay, so it's a little fishy when you start tracing where the money's going. Okay, so you guys are going to see that, do they care about the health of Americans? It appears that way, but what else does it seem like? They have a vested interest. Okay, they have a very, very well vested interest. So, do vaccines work? What you have to understand is the theory behind a vaccine is correct. Okay, let's introduce a live virus into your body. So then what does the body have to do? Develop an immunity to it, right? Fight it. And so then what's that supposed to do? It's supposed to keep you immune. Okay? So let's talk about this, because there are two types of immune systems in your body. There is a long-term and a short-term. Okay? So when you get a vaccine, or when you want protection, how long do you want protection? For a little while or a long while? Okay, so let's talk about this, because vaccines, do they work? Does a vaccine work? It does work. Okay, a vaccine works. However, it works for a short time. It's a temporary immunity. Why do you need boosters? Do you see? If vaccines were to work on the scale that we want, which we're looking for what? Lifetime immunity, then why would we need to get boosters? Well, there's a Th1 and a Th2 response. Okay, so this is what you have to understand. Th1 is your lifelong immunity. Okay, that's what you want. That's cell-mediated immunity. Th2, this is your emergency, this is your antibody immunity. Okay, so when you step on a nail, what type of immunity do you think that'll be? Th2, that's your emergency immunity. So right away the body's going to get there and it's going to start